Good evening, and thank you for joining us today. This is us, and we have arrived. Last week we were not here because we just had it. We had to attend to other pressing issues. We needed to balance the work-life talk show balance, sort of, so to speak. That's why we had the 1 week off, and I think we're a bit refreshed. But unfortunately, it seems like the world is going back into a cage, or so a lot of people out there feel, with the whole press coverage and everything that's been going on. This is our episode 8. We were meant to do episode 8 last week. This is episode 8. Please follow us on and subscribe to on social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can follow us on Spotify too and listen to us on your podcast while you're chopping those onions in your kitchen, while you're going out for a walk. You know, you need your exercises now, and we're going back, almost going back to a lockdown protocol. Anyway, this is us, and good evening once again. I'm Jude, and I have Nana with me and Sandra. How are you guys doing?
I'm okay. I'm doing okay.
Good, great to know that. Um, I have my cup of, well, I don't know, it's tea though. Herbal tea. I need it for my throat. Yeah, it's quite cold. It's cold in London. That's why I have this in front of me. Um, the world has been a bit chaotic recently, especially with the new variant. It's come up. You know, we have all the alphabets, the alpha, delta, sigma, beta, whatever, blah 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 blah, ABCD. We have all of that. If you're used to your Latin words, I don't know if it's Latin, yeah, but if you know those codes, we have all the letters coming out. We've got to Omicron. It almost sounds like Transformers, you know, that movie, but the vehicles are turning into. Because one of them was called Decepticon or Micron, I can't remember. I think that's where they got the Omicron from. So they're telling us that COVID is mutating, you know, like Teenage Ninja Mutants. And this time around, it's coming from Africa. Not coming from Africa.
Well,
Africa
Yeah, I
with
was just about to say that.
South
no,
Africa.
yeah,
We
Yeah.
detected it. Yeah, they
Yeah, South
detected it
Africa with their
first.
expertise detected it and say, hey, Ward, we're doing you a favor. Be prepared. This is coming due to their own sequencing of genomes. I'm not a scientist, so permit me if I make any mistakes. But scientists from South Africa have done us a favor, and from Botswana as well, told us that they've discovered this. They weren't hiding anything from us, so they do the world a favor.
yeah.
And the world went into a panic mode, typical of the mainstream media. They went straight into a panic mode. It's as if they have an agenda or a vendetta against Africa already. They went straight into a panic mode, blah, blah, blah. What do we do? They're
They
calling
do.
up Cobra meetings, they're calling up Serpent meetings, they're calling up Lion meetings, they're calling up Area 51 meetings everywhere in the world, except Africa calling up these meetings. Africa was trying to do us a favor, and it's gone.
You're mute.
Can you guys hear me?
Now I can hear
I
you.
don't know how I got on mute,
Yeah.
but you know, again, like I said, it's Decepticon, it's Omicron, and they're taking over my technology as well. Because I was just told by Sandra that I've been on mute. I don't know how much you guys heard, but I'm going to start all over again. No, I won't bore you. I won't start all over. We've got the Omicron variant detected in South Africa, and I think with the help of Botswana as well. And that set the world in a downward spiral, panic mode, so to speak. And a lot of people are panicking. One, it's coming to Christmas again. Two, a lot of people have made plans. Three, Africans are worried if this is a target against them, it's a vendetta against them. Hence, we have the topic COVID and its variants, travel bans, is the West biased? So I'm going to open the floor to my sisters, Nana and Sandra, for them to tell us what they think. What do you think, Nana? I'm going to come to you first. You had a travel plan, so I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my travel plans have been disrupted. I was due to fly out and unfortunately tested positive. So here we are in the UK.
So where were you traveling to?
I was going to Ghana.
Good.
So yeah, so I was due to go to Ghana, and obviously, I don't know. I didn't expect. I had because I have no. I don't have any symptoms. I'm okay. I'm fine. I think it's only been today that I've probably sneezed or something. But minus that, I've just been okay and I've been fine. And I took all the lateral flow tests, all negative. So it's a bit annoying. But I guess this is the thing with COVID, isn't it? It's very unpredictable.
When you say lateral flow test, what sort of test is that? Is that the one you do
So
at home?
Yeah, so that's the one you do at home. 30 minutes, you have your results.
And it came up as positive.
They were all negative.
All negative. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And
But
then, of
previously
course,
you had a
Which one
positive
did
one
you
that
do
was
then that was positive then?
positive.
I never had a positive lateral flow test.
Okay. So how did you
I
test positive for it?
So I went. In order to travel to Ghana, you need a PCR test. So I went to get
okay.
my fit to fly PCR test.
That one.
Yeah.
The one you
so
pay for.
the one exactly. That's what even annoyed me the
So
most.
money making machine, kinda.
It is a money making machine, because if
Okay.
the government was so concerned about keeping COVID under wraps, I think they would allow people to get the PCR test for free. In all honesty, but that's another story for another day. So yeah.
So your travel plans have been disrupted, yeah?
Yeah, because now I'm isolated for 10 days. So I'm stuck at home for 10 days before I can even think about doing anything. That's the first thing. I have to isolate for 10 days. So yeah, I'm at home for 10 days.
So what do you think about this variant?
The Omicron,
Yeah.
Omicron variant. I think at the moment, right, I think it's a bit of a moral panic, isn't it? Whereby the media have found out. I think the only reason why there's such a panic about the Omicron variant is because for the longest time, I think that the Western media have been waiting for Africa to basically be negatively impacted by COVID, and it hasn't happened. Because initially, it's always. I remember when COVID started, it was really, really like affecting like the European continent. It kind of almost felt as if that they were shocked or surprised that it wasn't negatively impacting.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't affecting that affecting the African continent in the same way. And it was almost as if, once this virus gets into that continent, they're all just gonna die, and that didn't happen.
We're gonna be walking
And
like
they were
that.
even it's funny
And
how they even sorry, honey. Sorry for cutting you off.
Go on.
No, it's fine. I just felt like it was almost as if it was like they were all waiting for there to be dead bodies everywhere across the continent of Africa, and that didn't happen, and it was a disappointment. And now it's like they get this chance where, oh my God, Omicron variant apparently been discovered in South Africa, and they're like, yep, that's it. All these countries going on the red list, and it's like, okay, so we're putting all these African countries on the red list, because at the moment I don't think that there's no other countries from other continents on that red list that the UK have put together. But the Omicron variant isn't only in.
It's not.
Isn't only in
it's
Africa.
in Europe.
It's in Europe. So why are there no European countries on the red list? That's my only question.
We'll come to that. We'll come to that.
Yeah.
Sandra.
Yeah.
You have recently had an experience with COVID, and it was a bit brutal with you.
Yes.
So what have you got to tell us about this whole COVID business?
it was a very scary experience. I was down for like few weeks. It felt like a bad cold, but I haven't experienced before. And like my head felt like it was about to like cut into two. When I sneeze or cough, like I felt like some like veins are popping in my body, like maybe cutting into two. I don't even know how to describe it unless you've experienced it. You know what I'm talking about. So it was terrible, and I still have it. Like I still have the virus research said the virus can stay in your body for up to 90 days. For some people, like it's different. But I tested last month, it was still in my system anyway. So that's why I can't even travel, because I was meant to go to Paris for Christmas, but I can't travel because I'm still positive.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been a very, very terrible and also humbling experience, because a lot of people died from this as well.
Okay.
So, but I just feel that the travel ban that they've put in place, to combat the spread of the new virus is just unfair, to be honest.
Okay. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that in the discussion. Recently, one of our Amazons from Africa, Mrs. Alakija, she was based in Abuja, and she had an interview with BBC4, and where she spoke brilliantly about the whole COVID vaccine protocol and the whole discovery of the new variant Omicron. And that has put Africans up in arms together, coming up together saying, look, this woman really spoke for us. Our video went viral. This is despite the fact that people that matters really don't watch BBC4, because BBC4 is done midnight and people who really matters don't watch it. If they really wanted people to hear our stories, they would have put it on primetime TV, BBC One, but they didn't. Anyway, it went viral.
How convenient.
Yeah, it went viral, and Africans have been using that as kind of a point of reference to say, hey, she's actually speaking our minds. So did you, because I've got my own reservations about our video as well. Do you guys agree with majority of people saying that woman spoke our minds about what is happening, about what she spoke about? She spoke about the Western nations, in quote, like they standing up for the people to the detriment of others. She spoke about the world hoarding the vaccines to the detriment of Africa. And then now Africa has done us a favor, telling us this new variant is out there, we're punishing Africa. Do you guys agree with everything in that video? Sandra, come on.
I agree. Most of what she said, I agree. I don't think I watched the entire video, but in terms of what she said, that it's just unfair to the African country, you know, that I agree, because I mean, you putting restriction will definitely cause further damage to like economies of the affected countries anyway, and undermine their ability to respond to and recover from the pandemic. And don't forget, the virus was detected in Europe days before it was detected in South Africa, right? And I believe like in the Netherlands, they also said there are two samples. So all of those good stuff anyway.
Canada as well.
So obviously this means that the variant was spreading in Europe before South Africa. Do you understand? So I mean, I just feel like the widespread, you know, travel ban to you know, to and fro South Africa countries, it's just completely
now Nigeria too.
Exactly, it's just completely unfair. It's really unfair.
But to chip in quick, it's unfair. I get that. Nana just mentioned Nigeria too, but Nigeria days after said, actually, we had Omicron in Nigeria before South Africa shouted out from the rooftop. Why? So do you think it's unfair on us from African perspective to say, yeah, you're putting all these travel bans, you're not helping us with vaccines, we're paying for vaccines, we're not getting up on the queue, or you're just holding it to yourself? She said in that video, and the way I interpreted it, she's saying you're pampering your own people to the detriment of our people. I think it's unfair to the Western world for her to have said that, because again, when you mentioned something earlier, Sandra, you mentioned something earlier, linking it to economic policies. We're talking politics here. These people are leading governments in Europe. They have their first allegiance, it is to their own people. Why do you think it is fair for them to leave their own people and start thinking for Africans?
No, here's the thing, dude, in terms of that. I think with the whole issue, and I understand where you're coming from in that. I mean, you're governing, you're going to look out for your own people first before you even start to think about anybody else, because this is a global pandemic. It's only right that you do so. But I think the issue and the main problem is the fact that we're hoarding, like the UK, we're hoarding vaccines to the extent that they were expiring and they weren't being used. I think that's where the issue comes from.
Thank you.
Is the hoarding of the vaccine, because it's well enough, right, when the UK and so many, we're ordering so many vaccines that you're not able to use it, but there are other countries who were ordering the vaccines who, one, they were paying it at a higher rate because they sell the vaccines to African countries at a much higher rate, and also because they're not delivering, because they're saying, oh no, they prioritize which country they're delivering the vaccines to. So that's what I have an issue with, when it's like almost as if, yes, where nobody's saying that don't look after your country or don't put yourself first, but not when you're keeping vaccines to the extent that they're expiring. And I remember reading this article about this was like a couple of, maybe like, was it last month or the month before? It was about the UK shipped over vaccines to be used in Nigeria, and the vaccines were due to expire in about 7 days or so.
How convenient! So are you the one that's
so are you really interested in helping these people?
We use the word help a lot, and sometimes it has different meanings in different settings. Now, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And the whole world is saying it should be a collective effort, almost like socialism, communism. It is convenient for people to ask that for a collective effort, almost akin to communism. But when it comes to other matters, we go back to stand on your own individualism. We are okay with capitalism in that sense. If we apply capitalism to the whole process of COVID vaccine, it should be give me money, more connection, more political contacts, and you get your vaccine. So survival for the fittest, evolution again. If your country is not able to negotiate for these vaccines, are not able to pay this money for these vaccines because they know them as notoriously not being able to pay for these vaccines. And this guy is offering big money, like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or Israel or Britain. Why would I sell to Nigeria or Botswana or Rwanda or Togo if I'll make times 2 from these vaccines if I sell to the UK? So I'm using myself as the guys making the vaccines.
Okay,
Tell me
so
why I should sell to Togo or Benin Republic as opposed to the UK.
Here's the thing. I think this is the thing. We have to in purely because it's a global pandemic, right? And here's the thing. Unfortunately, people still want to be able to travel. And with the way that our world is at the moment, right? We're in a globalized world. I don't think when you have a global pandemic, it's very, very difficult to sit there and say that I'm only going to do it from a capitalist perspective, because there's no way of you completely keeping this virus unless we're all
I'll stop you quick. Let's
completely.
make this interactive. I get you. Poverty is global. We have poverty. I don't see people screaming about tackling poverty in this same spirit and camaraderie. They speak that grammar.
Can I say something? Do you know why that there isn't? Because unfortunately,
a lot of people die from poverty more than COVID.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But one thing that we have to say is
every
that,
minute. Yeah.
Jude, one thing that we can't deny is that this is probably the first in the longest time, right?
Yeah.
Maybe for I don't know how long. This is the first time that we've had something that's equally impacting poor and rich
everybody
people.
Yes,
every single body. It doesn't. There's no respect of a person. Basically, COVID doesn't care whether you're.
COVID don't care who you are.
So I think that this is the first time that it's been like, oh my God, like regardless of like your status or anything else. Because initially when it started, I always used to say when COVID started, the people that were getting COVID, it was people of a certain class, because it was people of a certain class that were able to move around. I remember even in Ghana, when the cases started coming out, it was a lot of like the political leaders and stuff that started getting positive COVID tests. Why? Because they were the ones that were traveling out. So I think this is the first time where it's been like, okay, regardless of how much money you have, COVID is not discriminating and it doesn't care. And you can shield yourself as much as possible. You can be double vaccinated as I am, and you can still catch COVID. So then what happens then? So because of the way that it is, and I think even from a selfish perspective, even if you're a capitalist and everything else, right? Just because COVID is transmittable and it's transmittable to anyone and everybody, I would think that, okay, to avoid myself getting it, I'm going to make sure that everyone has access to it so I don't get it. You know, it's a bit kind of like doing it from, I know so it can't be from a capital. It's almost like the utilitarian approach. It has to be for the greater good of the people.
Yeah, that's what majority are clamoring for. But again, I'm saying, and I'm glad that you mentioned about the politicians catching it. I remember the fervor at the time was big politicians in Nigeria catching it and dying from it. And Nigerians actually went on their knees and prayed and fasted and said, God has arrived, kill all of them. Nature is taking its course. Well, unfortunately, COVID got bribed somewhere along the line and stopped killing Nigerian politicians. And they wanted to start going to the poor people, and that stopped. So Nigerians were really happy that it didn't really kill the so-called elite. So thank you for bringing that perspective into it. But again, I'm sat here. I'm Moderna. I'm Pfizer. I am AstraZeneca. I am GlaxoSmithKline, and I'm making this. I'm paying people for research. Your country, Togo or Benin, has not contributed anything to that research money. Britain has contributed. Hang on. America has contributed to that research fund. Italy has contributed to that research fund, for example. And the taxpayers agreed. They took it to Parliament, and the taxpayers agreed because of what you just said is a global pandemic. Let's protect our people. And now the vaccines came out. Rush, because of their scientists went to work. And now they're saying, we need to give it out to our people. We need to get our people double vaxxed. We need the third booster. And then somebody from Togo is saying, human rights. Come on, man. Share these things here. Who do you blame? You blame the Western world, or you blame yourself for not being able to negotiate or find your way in this way of the world?
here's the thing, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that our leaders are not taking any blame, because even in Ghana, this thing happened whereby one of our MPs, I think it was the health, I can't remember his name or who he was. I think he negotiated for vaccines, and he paid like the amount he paid. I think it was over 4 times the actual price, and he blamed it on the middle person. I'm not going to sit here and deny the fact that on the continent there is corruption, and sometimes like in terms of like when people are negotiating deals, a lot of them are thinking about their own pockets, and they're inflating prices so they can profit and then that also then creates a whole bunch of issues down the line. I mean, I'm by no means like I'm not going to sit here and we know that our leaders don't do enough, but sometimes I sit back and I'm like, with perhaps maybe it's a bit too much it might be a bit too cumbersome to expect the West to care about. I think maybe it might be time for African leaders to actually get their act together. But unfortunately,
that's an angle.
These are the people that we have and we're dealing with, and I don't want to believe that they're paying for vaccines at inflated rates, and then they're not being delivered. Because that in itself, it's a breach of contract. If I pay for something and then you turn around and said, "Oh, sorry, we no longer have them available," and especially when you know that especially when you know that these people need the vaccines, but I don't know what it is. Because they're paying for it. If they're not paying for it, I can understand. They're not expecting handouts because they are paying for the vaccines, but they're not being delivered.
Yeah, but funny you said that. I ordered a turtleneck, white turtleneck. I was going to go out and use it for something else yesterday. I paid next day delivery. I ordered it on Monday from Boohoo. So it arrived on Tuesday and it never came. I waited and waited. It never came. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday never came. And only behold for me to see, successfully delivered. And I checked and I was like, wow, where? Am I home? And I checked, it wasn't my door. They left it at somebody else's door, not even in my area. And I said, that ain't my door. And I started to complain immediately because there's a contract, because I paid for a good and it needed to arrive, but it didn't come. And you telling me I delivered to your door. And I'm saying, that's not my door. This is the picture of my door. So I have gone to challenge that and I'm still fighting it. So you would expect African nations to have stood up and said, I paid for so and so, but we're not getting it. But we haven't heard from Nigerian President Buhari saying, I paid, where is my delivery? I've not heard from Sierra Leone president saying, I paid, where's my delivery? Never heard from Tanzania or Rwanda or Ghana even saying this. Who is saying that we've paid for vaccines and we haven't received it? I haven't heard from these people standing up to say, we haven't received any of these vaccines. So I don't know where that information is coming from. So help me out.
Because that's here's the thing, but it was reported by, I forgot the name of the lady.
Alakija.
In
Botswana. Didn't get it on time, and they paid 27 quid more or something.
More. And I know there has been issues in Ghana whereby we paid extortion price for vaccines, but I think it was corruption that there's something funny going on. But that's my personal opinion.
There's corruption everywhere. Even when I was working for, I don't want to name the company's name, but we were working. That was when the pandemic started, and we were working. Project was about managing quarantine, so people coming from red list country and stuff. So I think there was a study that came out and they said that specific countries, anyway, I was in the meeting and they first said, that specific African countries are fabricating the tests. So I was like, what country? Just be specific. And they mentioned Nigeria.
No, of course.
Ghana.
Where in that list would have been a false list.
Exactly. So, and I think it was from their understanding that even the passengers are not even aware that they are purchasing fabricated COVID tests or whatever it was. But even our people, they know that these things are fake, but they're still using it. They went to buy these fake tests because they want to travel. So the economy is just corrupt. So we're not even helping. We're not helping. It's sad.
Here's the thing, right? But here's the thing, in terms of like fake COVID tests, etc. People in the UK were also traveling with fake.
Yes, they are fake COVID tests.
This is within. This is actually within the UK.
Yeah,
So
within
this
the
study
UK.
was
So
within the UK.
it was across. It was across board.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in loads of different countries. So I don't think it's. I mean, I don't think it's because people wanted to travel, and that's just what the bottom line is.
Yeah,
And once
I'm not
you put in
exonerating.
place
Yeah,
once you put in place things, like people are always going to look for a loophole, especially if they want to do something. So once they started putting in place all these restrictions and things, and it's like 2 years on, we're still in the same. We're basically going back.
exactly.
When in actual fact, I would have thought we would have made far more progress.
There's no progress. Even it's.
I feel like we're going back.
I mean, it's evident that the travel restrictions have been shown to have limited ability to even stop the spread.
Good again.
You know,
Good again
of
that you
infection.
mentioned.
But the tools that we've already put in place, which are like, the vaccination, the testing, the mask and everything, it's proven that it has most effective strategy to contain the pandemic. So I don't think it makes sense to put all these restrictions, because it's not going to.
On so many facets, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. Economically, it is crippling economies in Africa. And when I talk about these economies in Africa, permit me, I am Nigerian born, I'm British by naturalization. Now, I don't count Nigeria as part of those economic powers I'm talking about, because we don't have uniform sort of taxation and all of that systems to capture this data. I'm talking about South Africa and Botswana. These economies depend on tourism, and they can capture this data in real terms, how it affects when it drops, when tourism drops. So economies like that are going to be I don't know, depleted, is that the language? In a country like Nigeria, where, okay, you've put travel bans, people who, more than 5,000 people already booked a flight to go home this Christmas, just from the UK. That's what I heard. I haven't checked that stat out. That's what I heard, though. Even Nana was going to visit Nigeria as part of her journey as well. So that's one journey missed. That's some money going to Nigeria economy, whether black market or not, that we won't be getting. That's just one person I know, Nana. Now, this whole travel ban is going to affect only the people who are poor. Again, the rich people will find their loophole. Look, this travel ban ain't going to affect a person they call Buhari, or a person they call Otedola, or a person they call Abiola, or a person they call Igbenedion, or a person they call Davido, or a person they call Wizkid, or a person they call Burna Boy, or somebody with a surname like Nasser El-Rufai, or Sanusi, or the guy from Zenith Bank, First Bank. All of these guys, they'll fly in with a private jet, get concessions. They're friends of the Duke of Kent anyway. They'll fly in, get the concession. They ain't staying in no hotel. Even if they make them stay in hotels, they got the money to pay. So again, poorer people are being decimated. They're suffering because all of these policies. But that is valid. But my angle is this. If you were Boris Johnson, the past weeks has been very tedious for him. It's been very chaotic. It's gone through sleaze in the parliament, corruption in the parliament, MPs putting their hands in other pots while they work as MP, claiming they work for the people, while they work for the main people they work for, collecting thousands of pounds on a weekly basis, and some of them on a daily basis. It's gone through all of that, they're trying to say Parliament should stop MPs from all parties, both the Green parties, Labour parties, the SNP, Conservatives. They all have a second pot that they dip their fingers into. And on top of that, they pay their wives and husbands and all of that to work for them. They earn money. They spend money on kebab. Trust me, they claim it back on kebab. Me and you don't claim back on kebab when we work. They claim on toiletries, they claim on toothpicks and tea bags and all. Now he's going through all of that in Parliament. On top of that, he's facing kind of a rebellion from his own party. And now this whole COVID matter comes. Don't forget that in the first instance when COVID came, people said, Boris, you didn't lock down the country fast enough. That's why people kept coming in and all of this happened. Now, this is coming and Boris is seen an opening with the immigrant crisis just last week. Now, this has come as a blessing in disguise to them. And it's gone straight up. Let's have this Cobra meeting. We're locking down this country. We're locking down these countries from our country. Nigeria, who said they've had it. Botswana, South Africa. Yeah, because these people don't have the power to negotiate with them, diplomatic power to negotiate. They've gone on and do it, bam. The people in the country are happy because these are the countries that have been identified where this Omicron thing is coming from. Don't you think in the perspective of Great Britain, they've done the right thing to protect their own people and their borders. Put these high restrictions in place.
Or I think you know that the evidence suggests that there may be an increased risk of reinfection compared to like other variants in concern, but the data is still limited and inconclusive. So scientists are still trying to figure things out.
No, I'm saying this knee-jerk response is as a result of the blame put upon this so-called government. Don't forget they were still in power when the first COVID crisis came up. Then people said to them, "You didn't lock the country fast enough." You know what I mean? India happened. They said you didn't lock it fast enough. Now they're saying Africa is happening, and it's going, let's lock it very fast so that they don't blame us. Don't you think it's the right thing to do from the perspective of Great Britain?
No. I would only accept that knee-jerking excuse if it was being applied across all of the countries that have seen a rise in Omicron variants. This is why I have an issue with it, and this is why I'm standing by the fact that where they're being selective in the type of countries that they're sanctioning. If it was across board, of course everybody will understand, but it's not across board. So
let them apply the same principle to every other country.
Exactly.
But I just said something. So for me personally, I am just not buying it, because it's almost as if we're saying, okay, it's because of Omicron variant. Okay, understood. We get it. So why is it only certain very specific countries? And some of them don't even have the numbers of Omicron variants are not even comparable to some other European countries who have a higher number who are not on these lists.
Yeah.
And we have to question this.
Okay, we have to question this on those. Don't forget the mainstream media plays a big part in this whole business. Now I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm saying the reason they didn't blacklist other nations like Netherlands and Canada, who said probably their diplomats flew into South Africa or Botswana and they were the ones that they detected it from, and Belgium and the others. One, they've got diplomatic channels. These guys can level up on the same level. They can have discussions on the same level. Yeah, that's one. Two, these nations have had a higher numbers of people double vaccinated and with the boosters, and they have systems in place that Great Britain trusts. Don't you think that's the reason for that? They trust if data. You said it. Two of you said it. Data comes up from Britain, from Holland. Britain will trust that data compared to a data that comes up from Lagos or Abuja. True or false?
Why is that?
No, I'm asking you the question.
It is true.
Exactly. So they might be going by that, saying, look, hang on, we do trust the data coming from Netherlands and Canada. They will report these cases if it's happening. So we trust them. They've had higher numbers of people double vaccinated. So we trust these guys. We can have these restrictions on a certain level. But Africa,
whose fault is Africa to not have the facility to capture these data anyway?
Yes. So can that not be? Is that not the reason? Do you think that's
okay? If you look at it from that angle, maybe.
Because a lot is playing.
Right.
Because again, the media will not tell you all of this. Don't forget the mainstream media. I don't like them. They play too much to the gallery. They want to work on the emotions of everyone. Me and you. Whip us into that moral panic, into that chaos, so that we'll go back in that cage where they want us to be. I don't think there's an agenda. I don't think about any conspiracy theory. Look at India. India had their variant. I forgot what it was. Was it the Delta one?
Yeah, Delta.
Now, they said, oh, millions were dying. Oh, all of a sudden, people still dying in India. All of a sudden, mainstream media stopped reporting that. And also, Africans have I'm not going to say the right. They have, how do I put it? Do I say right? They can state their opinion with regards to, at the beginning of this whole vaccine, you guys became jealous in the West that it wasn't killing us that like you expected, because there were a lot of scientists who talked about it.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I remember. There were a lot of they estimated like 190,000 people die without containment. But
it's not happening.
It's not happening.
It hasn't.
And it won't happen. Yeah,
and it won't. And this is what I kept saying. It was almost as if, it was almost as if they were waiting for something to come out of the continent and be like, yep, that's it.
And that's it. And that's
how I
felt
now. Because I feel like when COVID started, it wasn't really ever about, like, the European scientists were on TV, like literally predicting the amount of people, and it was almost as if there was a bit of a disappointment when their prediction didn't go as planned.
Yes, there was that sentiment, sort of. Yeah, there was. I remember
remember watching
And then
some of like the interviews, and I was like, this is absurd. Why is this obsession for there to be dead bodies across the African continent?
it's
I mean,
crazy.
it didn't happen. And then all of a sudden it was almost like, oh, why isn't this? Why aren't they dying on the continent? Why is it not affecting them? And it
Even
was
one of
very
the
strange.
analysis was
And as
suggesting.
somebody of and even as somebody of African descent, I was very uncomfortable with that narrative.
I was.
One of the
I am still.
one of the analysis was
Yeah.
suggesting that Africans may be twice likely to experience COVID-19 without any ailments. You know, but like Africa is doing, we're doing much better than, you know, many have expected. So now that this new variant just come up, I just feel they just want to like just pick on us and say that's
Again,
it.
Sandra,
That's
you're
it.
touching on something very key. Now, all of that happened. I know I'm nobody. I'm just me. I don't have, it's just my opinion I'm airing. When that first started and when it started to look as if they were waiting for millions of people to die in the Black African continent, I felt it wasn't happening. I felt this is the time for the Black African, especially I'm talking about Egypt and Morocco and the others, look at Black African nations. I thought it was a time for the leaders in those part of the world to really stand up and say, hang on, what is this agenda? And again, I thought it was also an opportunity for the world to say, let's look into Africa, why this is not happening, and learn from this. There must be something we can take from here and save the world from it.
They should have learned from the Ebola.
Again, what it drives is letting the West lead the narrative. There was no single African leader who led the narrative. It was like they were leading voodoo narrative. Like, oh, we can cure it with lemon. We can cure it with some tree bark, blah, blah, blah. There wasn't any concrete scientific report coming from Black African nations. This is my problem. They never jumped on that opportunity to say, hang on, this is something we can save the world actually from us. Let's see why we're doing this. We've got scientists. We've got people parading themselves as scientists in Black African nations. We've got people parading themselves as virologists in Black African nations. We've got people parading themselves as doctors and all of these blah, blah, blah in Black African nations. None of them came up with anything meaningful. But all they're doing is begging for vaccines, lifting their hands, give us vaccines, give us vaccines. We want vaccine communism. We want vaccine socialism, blah, blah, blah. None of them has ever come up with anything. So my point is this. We're always asking for, when are we going to sit up tight and say, hang on, the world expects us to die. Bill Gates expects us to die somewhere. We're not dying. Let's look into this as a collective, the whole Black African nations. We have African Union, we have ECOWAS. Let's look into this as a collective and see what is happening. Pull our resources together and find out what we're doing very right or what is happening in this continent, and we can share that with the world. Why are we always waiting for the West to share with us? That's why it looks as if the West is biased. I don't see the West as biased. I see them as being protective of their own people. I call it nationalism. It's COVID vaccine nationalism. And they are right by doing so. Because apart from the COVID and the vaccine, there's also politics. Nobody wants to lose their position as a prime minister or as a president because they want to help an African nation. Nobody want to do that. You have to put that into consideration. Nobody want to lose their position. It's all about that as well. So if Africa is not using their bargaining chip, why do we blame the West for our problems? That's where I'm coming from.
I get where you're coming from. I mean, you makes sense. I mean, we can only speak, us as individuals, we can only speak about it, but isn't it up to our our leaders to do something about it? You know, there's only so much we can do, even from here. So I guess it's just us having better leaders, but I don't know. I don't know what to say.
We're talking about political leaders, but we got people from the medical background, scientists. We have a community of scientists here who come out and break the ranks with the government of Boris Johnson and say, hey, this is what we think. And the government is going that way.
Well, is anybody listening to them? Is anyone listening to them?
They don't listen to them, but they're breaking ranks and saying the things. So it's not about listening or taking on board their perspective. It's about breaking the ranks and saying, this is what we're saying. Then the politicians will say, okay, great, we've heard you, but we still have to watch the economy, which is very, very valid. You can't just go on scientific perspectives and not reports and just crash the whole economy. We need the world economy to keep going. So they have to balance all of this. But I don't hear scientists doing this in Africa against their own political leaders. I don't see any of this happening. I don't see anyone breaking ranks. Yeah, go on.
Do they have the resources to do this?
I was going to even ask that
That's exactly
question.
what I talked about
Because
earlier.
because if there is, I don't think if there's no resources and there's no funding for them to do this, it doesn't matter how well-meaning scientists on the continent might want. It doesn't matter how well-meaning or how much research they want to do, if they're, because research is really expensive. If you do not have the financial backing for research, you're not going to be able to afford it. And unfortunately, it seems that our leaders are not concerned with medical research, clearly, because things that always affect us is they're just not interested in at all.
Or maybe there's money for it, but they're not saying anything about it.
Again,
who knows?
You can't divorce politics from all of this and economic decisions. When economists like Nigeria go on.
I don't know how true this is, but I remember reading like an article about how people were saying that like Nigeria inflated its COVID cases so it could get like funding.
There was all of that as well. This is why I'm saying you don't capture your data properly. Who's going to respect you?
And if that's, I remember reading that, and I was like, if they're doing this,
well, how accurate is that?
Here's the thing, but I'm like, if you are doing this, I was like, this is absurd. But you know what's funny? I sat back, and as honestly, everybody knows I ride hard for the continent. I love Africa to death, and I couldn't even defend it because I wouldn't put it past our politicians to do that. Because look what they did with COVID relief.
Yeah.
Politicians hoarded COVID relief for parties and in their private residence instead of giving it out to the people. So I remember reading that and I was thinking, do you know what? I wouldn't put it past them to inflate their figures so that they can get funding from the West. So when I think there's a lot of distrust already.
Yeah.
Especially from the West
towards our people.
Yeah. So it is really difficult. But then
the Bible says, spare the child the rod. I don't know what the other part of it means, but spare the child the rod. Yeah. If you were the Prime Minister of Great Britain, would you deal with a recalcitrant nation like Nigeria, where reports have come to you that they're inflating statistics, they're inflating this, and they're hoarding COVID relief materials for their politicians? Would you want to deal with those sort of people? You'll be looking for credible partners. Tell me, Nana, will you be looking to work with those sort of people?
No, I definitely agree that I wouldn't. Absolutely not.
I'll tell you some story. Go on.
But like I sit back and I'm like, it's like I really don't like. I sit and I get it and I understand like from the perspective of the West. I absolutely understand. But then I'm sitting back and I'm just like, but then are the masses going to suffer because the people at the top are so are rotting, basically, essentially. Let's call it what it is. The people at the top are rotting. So then the masses are suffering because of the actions of the few of the elites. It's just really, for me, it's just a sad state of affairs.
The former finance minister of Greece, when Greece was going down, Yanis is his first name, I think Varoufakis, wrote in one of his books, "The weak suffer as they must." I like that. And it's almost like the opposite of survival of the fittest. The weak suffer as they must, because the weak is the weak. In every society, the weak suffers. So when Boris Johnson's government decided to impose that travel ban on Nigeria, the red list, which will come into effect, I think, tomorrow morning, 4 a.m., if I'm right.
Yeah.
It's only those people, middle class and kind of poor people, who this will really affect. Those people who were looking to go see loved ones and all of that.
Of course, yeah.
I've had so many phone calls today. They're telling me we're not going any longer because I can't afford to come back and pay that for me and my family. It's going to be too much. If they told us we'll come back and isolate at home, I would still take the risk and go. But I'm not doing that. They said, somebody said to me, I'm not paying for British hotels who are broke already to revive their economy. Hey ho, I said to him, I said to my friend, I say, hey ho, if they have a government who's standing up for them, great. Your government is standing up for the tourism department in Nigeria or the hotels or the businesses. It's to their own detriment if they can't negotiate their ways in the world. It's about give and take. Nigeria is part of the whole Commonwealth government. Nigeria is a big player in the Commonwealth. But it seems like time after time, they're always beggars. I was expecting Buhari to have stood up and made an announcement and saying, Britain, this ain't going to work.
We know Buhari is spineless. Come on.
Buhari is what?
He's spineless.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Buhari, you didn't hear that from me. You heard it from Nana. She's Ghanaian and British as well. You didn't hear it from me, Buhari.
I didn't say anything.
Oh,
So is the West
decorative. He's a
biased
decorative
after all of
president.
this information? After all of
Yeah.
this information, is the West really biased towards Africa with regards to COVID vaccines and the variants and all of these restrictions?
I mean, now you've said everything. I mean, well,
Here's the thing. I still think there's an element of bias in terms of who they're
Mhm.
putting on the red list. I am still standing up for that. I don't think I'm deviating from that. That is a fact.
Are you
There is
saying
an
that
element.
because you were meant to travel to Nigeria and you can no
No,
longer travel?
honestly, like I don't care. I honestly don't care for traveling, but honestly, just saying it, I think there is an element of bias in terms of the countries that are on the red list. Because I'm not, and I think from the beginning when this whole COVID thing started, I'm like, it's a virus. Even from GCSE science, we all know that viruses mutate. That's what they do.
Mhm.
And that's not going to change. So I
Mhm.
think we have to be prepared for COVID to mutate, because that's the nature of viruses. That's how viruses operate.
Amazing point you just made. It's amazing how we all learned this during our science days in secondary schools.
Yeah.
Yes, it beggars belief. It almost as if that the current crop of government and politicians on the sides of Labour and Conservatives, it's almost as if they never went to science class in school.
Exactly.
The moral panic is just absurd.
Exactly. And I'm so shocked because I'm like, yes, this virus is going to keep mutating. Remember,
It's
we learned
endemic.
this
It's going to be with us forever.
So it's high time we put in place certain things and get used to the fact that COVID is here to stay.
Yeah.
And just
there's no point for the travel bans then, because
no, there is not. If you ask me my honest opinion,
there's no point.
I'll tell you there's no point for the travel ban. It's knee-jerk response.
So my question is, why are they then putting the travel ban? Unless they want to figure other things out, maybe they want to find a way
the reason for the travel ban, it's just buried bad news. The government has been hit left, right, center with the sleaze in parliament, and also with the recent death of 21 persons trying to cross the channel, including children.
So
they're trying to bury bad news. They're trying to bury bad news.
All right.
This just landed on their table like some Christmas turkey arrived before Thanksgiving. Let's jump on this and everybody will forget that. Because it's about whipping up public sentiments, whipping up public emotions. And that's what the mainstream media does. And the mainstream media, they've been waiting like hyenas. Africa is not giving us meat. Africa is not giving us meat. Let's get our meat. And the meat came and they're going for it. But it's not the traction is not working for them. It's not like the Indian one. They whipped up the sentiment so much in the one about India, and almost people started looking at Indian people on the street like, what? Now, look, I'll tell you my perspective when the whole COVID started. I was one of the people who didn't really agree with the lockdown. I wanted us to just live our life. And I'll tell you why. I just wanted us to continue our life because we were already doing that before it all started to just go pear-shaped. The people started dying even more while we were in lockdown. The reason I said that was I told people, I said, look, if this originated from Africa like the Ebola, they would have been beating Black people on the streets of Britain. I was so afraid of my life. And I don't pray. And I started to pray to God or whichever God was up there. I said, please, don't let Africans start dying with this disease. They will kill us on the streets of England. Definitely. I panicked and I told my wife, it's going to be difficult for us on the streets of England because it will be easy pickings. Another thing they should have looked at, and I thought we made a mistake, and Boris was looking at it earlier, was the herd immunity. I'm not an expert, but I think Africa has actually achieved herd immunity. That's why we're not dying. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe it has, because they're not being as vaccinated. If we're saying that they're not as vaccinated as a lot of people are not vaccinated on the continent in comparison to European countries, but yet the deaths, if you look at the death rates and the infection rates, there's a big disparity between the two. It could possibly be. But the thing is that, here's the thing, there is no data. We are not looking into it. We don't know the whys. We don't know why Africans are not being as negatively impacted as people predicted from COVID vaccine. We don't know the whys. We don't know if it's due to like the tropical weather. We don't know. We don't know anything. So there's a lot of speculation. So until like you said, until the scientists on ground actually look into the reasons behind it, we can only speculate.
Fact. What do you think? What do you think, Sandra?
I agree with Nana. I completely agree with her. I mean, we don't know why we're not, like, Africans are not affected. And like you
way it
said,
is in the West, yeah.
yeah, it's we don't know. It could be like other immunizations we as Africans we've had. Maybe that's why
As
it's
children,
protected
yeah,
us
yeah, yeah,
from, the
yeah.
virus. Could be that.
Hmm.
But yeah,
I
yeah,
actually thought our bodies have really adapted and
adapted to.
fighting malarias and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
why I still say they should look into that.
Mm-hmm.
African scientists should look into that and say, how have we managed to stop this? And I think it is in our body or our blood or whatever, or the antigens
Mm-hmm.
itself, or whatever they want to say, call it, the scientists call it. I think it's that. I think the whole world should be looking to Africa for
For
survival for the
survival.
next couple of years, because this is endemic and it's
But
going
are
to
we
remain with
are
us.
we in that space to lead other people?
We're not in the space.
Is
That's where the
yeah.
trouble is. That's why.
So
That's why the question again is the West biased with the way they're doing things.
yeah, well, I believe in some cases they are. Like this recent one. If I yesterday or 2 days ago, I saw an article or a post, whether it's from the German, I don't know, saying the virus from Africa.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But
I saw that as well. I saw that newspaper article,
Yeah,
and I
be
was like,
ready.
but yeah, and I was
Come
like,
on.
come on. I feel like they've
come
been waiting
on.
to do this.
They've been
Yeah, you know,
waiting.
it's been on the thing.
Exactly.
They
They've
really
been
can't understand why we're not
waiting.
dying of it. They
They've
really
been
can't understand.
waiting.
Yeah, it's there. It's there, and I think even the scientists, not just in Africa continent, I think the scientists here in the West and in the Middle East and the Far East Asia, they need to come together and say, because you have a code that you so-called swear to, you're all scientists. So your family of scientists worldwide, wherever you come from, I think they need to be sharing their data with the scientists from Africa as well. There shouldn't be any bias in that aspect of sharing information. So if they're not sharing information with African scientists and African government, there is bias because that is factual information you're not sharing
Yeah,
and
even
data.
South
There is
African
bias.
government, the
Yes,
president
yes,
said the data wasn't they didn't
yes,
share data
there
to
is
them.
bias. If you
Yeah.
have this technology about the vaccines, creating vaccines, and Africans don't have it yet because of our state of things, and you're not sharing this with Africa nations that you think can manage to manufacture stuff,
Yeah.
that is bias. I'm going to agree that is bias. But on the political decisions and economic decisions being made, I don't think it's bias. I think the West hold or they are beholden to their own people first and foremost to the detriment
Mm-hmm.
of others. That is what we call
Mm-hmm.
nationalism. It's almost like you saying Saudi Arabia kills people. Britain don't sell weapons to them. The government is saying if we don't sell weapons to Saudi Arabia, we're going to be short of 80 billion pounds every month. So you better weigh this up. So on the economic side of things and political side of things, I don't think they're biased because they have to watch for their own back. But on the side of not sharing scientific data, COVID vaccines data, I think they're very, very biased. That's my
Yeah.
opinion. So I
Mm-hmm.
think on that ground, there should be collective effort. You should be running data with scientists. Like you two rightly said, if the scientists on ground are not asking for this, they're not making requests, they're not ready for this. I don't see how do they even have the systems to share this data, to receive this data. I don't know. I really don't know who's going to take the lead in Africa. That's me. I don't know who's going to take this lead in
Yeah,
Africa
that's
about this
true.
data. Yeah, but with the knee-jerk response, you can understand politicians. They're beholden to their people. The mainstream media whip up sentiments, and the people start going gaga. And once they start going gaga, the local representatives in the parliament need to listen to them and say, hang on, we're not going through this again. Don't forget it's Christmas coming. All the adverts are on TV. They're saying Christmas time is the time to be together. And they're saying, oh, a vaccine from Africa is trying to separate us again. These guys are not going to be happy. They'll be saying lockdown. We don't need them. How much trade do we do with Nigeria? How much trade do we do with Botswana? How much trade do we do with South Africa? How much do they bring into our economy every month? This is how they measure these things. On those grounds that the mainstream media will not be able to tell you on a daily basis, I'm saying they're not biased. They're just protecting their own stuff. So before we wrap it up, I'm going to ask one sentence from you, Nana, and one sentence from Sandra as well. COVID and its variants and the travel bans, is the West biased?
Yes.
Okay, you heard yes from Nana. Sandra?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And thank you to our viewers who've been watching from wherever you're watching from. If you're in the red list country, like Nigeria, you don't get in this country this midnight and before 3 a.m. tomorrow, I suppose, you're going to be staying in Holiday Inn and paying $2,000 plus. Holiday Inn ain't a
Yep,
pretty hotel. It ain't a five-star hotel. If it was a
And
five-star
five
for
hotel,
sure.
star.
I'll be paying for it.
It
But it ain't a five-star hotel. So
definitely isn't.
you really need to be checking with your travel agents, with your flights, whatever they call them.
And BA,
Uh,
BA have
yeah, be
cancelled the flight.
They've
okay.
what? They've
So
Yeah,
cancelled them.
they cancelled the Sunday flight,
Mm.
okay,
the flight
so
that was
they're
supposed to leave
gone.
today.
Oh
Yeah,
my
because they
God.
said
So
I saw it online. Apparently, loads of people were so upset. They said because of operational reasons, they can't. The flight isn't leaving, so they've now
okay.
rescheduled the flight to leave tomorrow,
Oh,
which then means that
oh.
a bunch of people who booked the flight to avoid having to pay for the
I see.
quarantine
I see.
hotel by
Ah.
BA is going to have to fork out. And on top of that as well, the government doesn't have enough spaces in their quarantine hotels.
Anyway,
No.
I've got a nice cabin. I've got a nice cabin in somewhere in Abbeywood. If you want to quarantine, I'm shouting it out from the rooftop. You can pay 1,500 for my nice cabin. The government can monitor you from there. You got to make money in this economy. Anyway, on the brighter side, please do not panic. We've had this variants coming, like Nana rightly reminded us about our secondary school science classes.
Mhm.
Flu does mutate. All of this sort of
Viruses mutate.
viruses, they do mutate. So it is expected. So don't get panicky or get into this emotional mood when they whip up the
You just
sentiment
have to
saying, oh my
adapt to
God, there's a
it.
new variant. They give you these tough names, Omicron, Alpha, Omega, Beta,
They're just
Delta,
making it so
Sigma.
ambiguous. That's
Yes,
why
yes, yes.
it's
Exactly. It's
scary
just
to people. We
it's
just have
got
to
different
adapt to
variants.
it.
Exactly. It's just different flu. And so don't get into the panic. Panic about your tickets that you've bought already. Go sort that out.
So
Hopefully
they'll
you
give the
get
refunds. Wouldn't they
yeah,
refund
hopefully you get
people
your
back? Yeah.
refunds. Hopefully
It's
you get
just
your
those
refunds.
hotels that you book.
Yeah,
They probably
hopefully
won't
you get your
refund you.
refunds. But again, although I've said stuff about mainstream media, you still have to listen to the mainstream media for the next government action, unfortunately. But this is what we call it a day, and we'll be discussing COVID variants and travel bans, whether the West is biased. And you've heard from Sandra, she believes the West is biased. You've heard from Nana, she believes the West is bad. I've said on some grounds the West is biased. And until next week, this is us, and we'll say good night. Bye bye.
Good night.
Good night.